try. Wow, neat.
Give me a break.
I don't like this.
Whoa! What's happening?
Oh!
Where are we? Look out!
Fear not, ranger. Barbarian, magician, thief, cavalier, and acrobat.
Who was that?
That was Venger, the force of evil. I am Dungeon Master, your guide in the realm of Dungeons and Dragons.
Stranger things, everyone wants more. All we can do is wait for season 4. I thought in the meantime that it might be fun to read every comic and book in what I call the Stranger Danger Book Club. Stranger Danger Book Club. Book Club. Stranger Danger Book Club.
Greetings, stranger friends. Remember me? Well, I'm back. Finally. I'm sorry I let that song play so long. There's two reasons why. Number one, because it's play with me. Get it? It's kind of like thematic to this episode. Number two, I have to tell you, Extreme is one of my favorite bands of all time. Yes, I admit it. I love them. I've heard them play that song live, and it's wonderful. But that's not what we're here for. We're not here to talk about my favorite bands. We're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about Stranger Things. And it's been a little while since you heard from me last. The last time that I mentioned or that I recorded anything was for the Creel House little teaser that came out over the summer, right? It was September. But that's the last time I've said anything, and I wasn't even really that good at it because you could see that I didn't make the connection that there was a Facebook video that, well, at least a video I saw only on Facebook, that Stranger Things put out showing newspaper clippings about the Creel murders, about this grisly murders that happened in this house. And I didn't even make that connection. And it was pointed out to me on Twitter. So thank you to those who mention things on Twitter. You see, I'm, I love Stranger Things and I love talking about Stranger Things, but there's no doubt in my mind that you guys know plenty more than I do. And if you ever hear me make a mistake, which I'm sure there are plenty, if you ever do, please feel free to email strangerdanger@fansnotexperts.com. Feel free to write me up on Twitter, or is that ping me on Twitter, whatever it is, at StrangerDPod on the Twitter. Thank you to the folks today who liked my tweet. I tweeted out earlier today that I passed a major milestone recently, that the podcast has had over 100,000 plays, which blows my mind. Thank you, Earth. Thank you, people of Earth. Earth. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you so much for staying subscribed. And I want to crush those numbers. When the new season finally gets here, I want to get these episodes up so quickly that people will be like, whoa, I haven't even watched this episode yet, and there's already a podcast for it. That's the dream. Now, in reality, I've made some delays. I've made you wait. So I don't want to do that this time. This podcast has meant too much to me over the last year. And plus, it's been a while since we have done like an actual... It's been a long time since we got a real episode of Stranger Things. And then I took forever to finally get the episode up. But, my goodness, time just stands still sometimes. My goodness gracious. And all that time, I feel like I haven't been back to work in so long. And we're not talking about me here. We're talking about Stranger Things. Okay. Here's the crazy thing. There was another video that Facebook put out yesterday, and I completely missed it until this morning.
Dustin, drum roll.
11. 11. 11. 11.
11.
11.
11.
11. 11. 11.
Folks, that audio didn't tell you anything. But if you saw it, you know that it's a little promo, a little tease for Stranger Things Day. And the way that the video kept saying 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, you'd think it was November 11th, right? But I'm guessing the 11 just signifies November. Because if you remember, the 6th of November is actually the date in 1983 where Will Byers disappeared. So it's honoring the fictitious, well, it's real in our world, date in the Stranger Things world. While, hopefully giving us something about Stranger Things 4. That's what we're all hoping for, right? So I found this article on Stranger Things Day 2021, what to expect. And it's does some of that thing where you ever read an article online, you can skip to like the fourth paragraph to get to what you're looking for because the first three are just, Stranger Things is a show. Actually, this one doesn't do that much, like where it's just, filler, and the good stuff. So it talks about Stranger Things being on the 6th because of Will Byers. What else does it have? Well, it has the video that I showed you. And it says, for what you can expect, an announcement on that day is unclear. Last year, a teaser was released around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is my time zone. So Saturday, maybe something is going to happen at 7 p.m. It just says keep your eyes glued to Twitter and YouTube, and that's what I'll be doing. In previous years, Netflix has announced episode titles and trailers on this date. In 2018, they released a VHS version of Season 2. And in 2019, we got the first title of Season 4. Think about that. In 2019, we got the first title of Season 4. That's 2 years ago. That's a long, long time. What do they expect? This article, what does it expect? They expect we're going to get another teaser trailer. Remember we got From Russia with Love, and that was titled 1 out of 4. 11, Are You Listening? 2 out of 4. Creel House, the third. And possibly we'll get the fourth one. What they are saying also is that we will not receive a definitive Season 4 release date. That's what this article is saying. They're saying that Netflix Brazil's Instagram page has stated that a definitive date will not be stated. Right now, it still says only 2022. My dream, folks, is that they shock us. And when 2022 starts on January 1st, it's like, we told you 2022, it's here. Stranger Things, like on New Year's Eve, we get a boom, just a hit you over the head. That would be the greatest. Wouldn't that be the greatest gift that 2022 could give us? I think, it also says we could expect some comic book announcements. Ooh, that's good for us, right? They said the sprawling collection of comics from Dark Horse has steadily grown over the years. I mean, look, that's why we're here today. And of course, with an announcement over the summer that Dark Horse was expanding their lineup. Now we know that there's a Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm still catching up on everything. I've gone in now, I've seen other things. I'm like, wait, that was there? There's the Bully. There's another thing that I just saw today. I think it was a Halloween special. And, of course, we're going to be getting Erica the Great. So that means while we're waiting, we're still going to be getting more and more book club updates. And even if the season starts, we're still going to keep doing the book club. It might be around the season, but the book club, as long as there are books to be read, there are podcasts. No, wait, I have a saying. As long as there are books to be read, there are words to be said. I just made that up. Come on. That's pretty good. Okay, see, yeah. This is what I hate about these articles. So they said, as I mentioned, the article says that over the summer, Dark Horse was announced they're expanding the lineup of comics. And I went to click on that link, and the link is all about everything you need to know about Season 4, and I couldn't find anything about comics there. So that's not important. What important is that things are starting to heat up. Okay? November 6th. Something's coming, which means November 6th, expect another episode. Something's got to be happening, right? It's Saturday. It's a Saturday. I don't think I have anything planned this weekend except waiting to see what's going on with Stranger Things and then coming and talking to you about it. But until then, why don't we talk about some Stranger Things comic books? And this is a little different. Usually when I read a book, like a novel, I kind of give you my overall thoughts on the book and the story without going into too much detail. But with comics, I have really enjoyed kind of walking you through the entire thing. So I hope you're looking forward to sit back and enjoy the ride as I bring you through the entire story of Stranger Things and Dungeons and Dragons. Very spoiler filled. I'm not going to read everything. I'm not going to, but I am going to go through the entire comic, kind of give you my thoughts on things. And if you haven't read it already, you will be spoiled. So I hope you have a chance to read it. You can pause it right now. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed reading it as much as I did. And why don't we crack this book open? Wait, actually. there is something else I wanted to mention before cracking open this book here, which is actually a tablet. I got a voicemail.
Hi, I love your videos, and, I just love your videos, man. Keep posting.
So that was from Josue. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Or Jose. I'm not really sure. Or Josue. I'm not sure. It's Josue is who sent me this voicemail message. And you guys can send voicemail messages too if you just go to fansonexperts.com/strangerdanger. Any of the episodes have a link in it where you can leave a message, or if you are on the Anchor app, or go to anchor.fm/strangerdanger podcast, blah, 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 blah. But I just wanted to say thank you to Josue. I'm sure I'm butchering your name. But I don't post videos. That's what I was like. He must mean episodes. I'm hoping he means episodes. Otherwise, you got the wrong number and you confused me with someone who posts really good videos. I like posting episodes, so I hope that's what you mean. So I'm going to take it as a win. I'm still going to take it as he meant to send me that. And I say thank you so much. Thank you so much. And you know what? You still got played, whether it was supposed to be for me or not. Still going to get played. And you know what else is going to happen? If you use iTunes, you can leave reviews on there. And if you leave a review, there's a 1,000,000% chance that I'm going to read it. And I got a review just a few weeks ago. It was actually, a month ago today. That's how long it's been since I've talked to you. And this is a 5-star review, my favorite kind of review, from someone named Iva54321. That's Iva's name. And Iva wrote, awesome, with multiple exclamation points. I can say explanation. Look at that, I did it. I said explanation. Exclamation. Multiple exclamation points. I'm a professional. And Iva says, I've listened to every episode and I'm listening again. Only one thing. No sponsor when you pause for sponsor. Also, please shout me out. This is the coolest part. All of it's cool, but this is really cool. I know the person who owns the Creel House. You know the Creels? Because don't they own the Creel House? Woo, spooky. That's very cool. The actual people that own the Creel House. That is awesome. And when can we come to visit? I want to come and do a live show from the Creel House. Live, Stranger Danger from the Creel House with my special guest, Iva54321. And to answer your question, I built in these little breaks so that I could add sponsors to the show. And once upon a time, there were sponsors on the show. So it would stop. There'd be a little commercial that I would be reading. And then the show came back. And then the sponsor went away. And the show still has that break in there. So if I ever get a sponsor again, and you go back and listen again, it'll make sense. So if you're in the future and there's a sponsor there, this doesn't make sense to you because you're like, what are you talking about? I hear the sponsor. But I think that's pretty much it. That I mentioned there's going to be a sponsor coming and then it wasn't there. So I've learned that in the future, don't say there's going to be a sponsor. Just kind of break away and then come back. Ooh, magic. I could always be like, after these messages, we'll be right back. But then there are no messages. I don't know. I'm rambling. But awesome. The title of this review is also how I feel. I feel this is awesome. Thank you so much. Iva54321 contact. And lastly, on an anchor.fm, which is the hosting service that I use for all my podcasts, I posted a screenshot about the major milestone of passing 100,000 plays. And I thanked anyone who had listened and got a lot of just nice people saying, great job, good for you, congrats. And I just wanted to mention one guy, Andy Gott, who said, love the podcast, can't wait for the new season to start. And I said, awesome, thanks, me too. And Andy, thank you for listening. Thank you for enjoying it. And yes, all of us, we just can't wait to get to Stranger Things 4. But until then, let's play some Dungeons and Dragons. Gather round, friends, and listen to the tale of Stranger Things and Dungeons and Dragons. The cover of this, this is a shared collection. It originally was 4 issues, 4 separate issues, and I bought the collected edition. And I think it was like $5.99 on Amazon. So if you want to read it, if you haven't already, I gave you that chance. Maybe it's still on sale, I'm not sure, but I would suggest picking this up because this was a lot of fun, I'm going to tell you. The cover, like what I like about collected versions is they still give you the cover of each issue, but they do it without any of the text, any of the, like the credits, the title, nothing, just the art. And this first one is really, really cool. It shows younger versions, pretty young versions, it seems like, of all 4 of our main male characters, Lucas, Dustin, Will, and Mike. But they are dressed like they're in like King Arthur's world. Mike is a knight. Will, of course, is a wizard. Lucas is dressed like Robin Hood, like a ranger or a warrior. And Dustin is dressed like a minstrel. He's got knives, almost like the Hobbit, and he's carrying a little a bandolier. It's some kind of instrument, and I'm not sure what it is. And they're just kind of. Will is behind them with his arms stretched out, almost like he's casting a spell, and the 3 of them are standing like at attention where they're about to attack. And it says this art is by Diego Galindo. Just to give you credits, I think Diego. It looks like. He might do the cover art. Oh, he does all the art. So script by Jody Hauser. We know Jody from doing a lot of these Stranger Things comic books. And Jim Zub, or Zub. The line art, or the art. I've never heard it said a line art before, but art by Diego Galindo. The color is by, I don't know how to say this, Misasic or Masick, Massasyk, one name, Misasic. The lettering by Nate Piekos of Blambot. Front cover art by Kyle Lambert. I guess that's the front cover art, which shows a dragon, a great dragon. And in front of him is our four heroes, the same 4 boys. They look a little older here, almost like how they looked at the end of Stranger Things 3. And while they're dressed like knights, they're also, except for Will, he's dressed like a wizard. They also look quite scared. And then below them, there are 4 almost like characterized versions of them, which are more in line with their Dungeons and Dragons characters. But okay, as I was saying, and then chapter break art by E.M. Geist, because there are these little chapter breaks also in between the covers that show just a little bit of art to almost let you know this is the end, and now I moved on to the next issue. And it looks like this came out in June 2021, so it's not that old. It's fairly new. But maybe this is the first cover art. I don't know what I'm looking at here. All I know is this art's really cool. Now we see another art page, which could be a cover, could be the break. I don't know, but it shows these really look like Dungeons and Dragons characters. Really look like something you'd see in Middle Earth, and there's 4 of them, and they are fighting a mighty dragon. But what's really cool is in the distance, you see the mind flare, like the big giant body of the mind flare, which is really, really cool. And why don't we get into the story? This is why I like this book, because it is not just a story of friends playing Dungeons and Dragons. It spans the life of Stranger Things so far as we know it. And when I say it spans it, I mean we start before anything, years before we even get close to the Stranger Things world that we know. This story picks up September 8th, 1980, back when your host was just 4 years old. Oh boy, I've revealed my age. It shows, we see Lucas and Mike kind of riding their bike downtown, and these bullies go to attack them. I don't know who these guys are, but they say, get back here, you little piss ants, and they are riding their bikes, getting the hell out of there. Really what it says is, and this is kind of just like a summary of how like crappy these bullies are, because it says there are all kinds of monsters in this world. Some are the kind that can chase you down, the kind that choose you as their prey. And they show them kind of hiding from bullies or just having to deal with bullies. One shot has Will in it. And then it says others are the ones you have to find if you dare to look. Ooh. And it shows Lucas and Mike riding their bikes like down an alleyway. They're like, come on, the bullies won't find us in here. And they run into the back of this room they don't know anything about. And they see this room filled with all these old books. That they think the place smells weird. They're like, wait, what if the bullies like ruin our bikes? Mike's like, it's better our bikes than us. But while they're in there, they notice that there's someone else in the room. Is it the bullies? No. They come around the corner and they see some dude, older gentleman, say in his 40s, maybe in his 50s, just because, could be 40s, because back in the 80s, I feel like people in their 40s looked a lot older. People in their 40s now look really young, cool, and hip. That's all I'm going to say. And they see him like with this sprawling table with all these little like figures set up on it, like a giant table of miniatures, like a giant like a landscape of these tiny little things, and these little like figurines and buildings, like a giant model. I don't know if you've seen Beetlejuice or anything, like almost like a giant thing you'd see a model train on, except there's no model train. And the guy says, "Oh, you two are about as stealthy as an artillery brigade. Quit skulking around and come have a look if you want." And they're like, "Whoa, are these yours?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course they're mine." It's like, I don't be weird, but I didn't know older people played with toys. He's like, "They're not toys, they're miniatures." And he's like, "Oh, so it's a game." He's like, yes, but also it's an important piece of history. Talks a little bit about the Battle of Waterloo. And, Lucas is like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." He's like looking through boxes and he's like, "This army stuff's cool, Mike." He says, "My dad was in Vietnam, but he doesn't talk about it much." So that's something we never heard that before, I don't think, right? So what I like about these books is you get little bits of character development, but you don't get anything where it gets in the way of the story we know or the story that is yet to come. Like for that, really what we're getting is like flair. I don't know, additional cool little bits that just flesh things out more. He's like, playing through war sounds cool. It's a lot more fun than reading about it. And he's like, "Wait a minute, what is this?" And he pulls out this yellow figurine that looks like it's got wings. It almost looks like a dragon. And Mike is like, "Holy crap, what is that?" He's like, "Well, actually, that's not a historical creature. It's from a new fantasy game that we're trying out." Oh yeah, you know what it is. So now we see Mike and Lucas running over to Will's house, and they start explaining what it is they learned from this bookstore, I'm going to guess, owner. And they're like, it's called Dungeons and Dragons. And it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And Will's like, so it's a board game? They're like, yeah, it's like a board game, but not a board game because it's a story and there's no board. And Will's like, wait, I'm confused. He's like, look, we'll explain it later. Here's what's important. We need books. What they're going to do is they're going to take as many books as they can from Will's house and use them to trade in store credit so that they could get a book, the Dungeons and Dragons book. Will's like, we can't just take all these books. And Lucas is like, Will, they've been sitting here for years. Your mom's not even going to notice they're gone. Yeah. Will's like, okay, I don't even know what this game is. And they're like, and Mike says, do you want to be a wizard and cast some awesome spells? Will's like, yeah, I guess. Then join us, Will the Wise. Join us on this legendary quest. I like that it seems like Mike gave Will the name Will the Wise, but it also reminds me of Ghostbusters when they talk Ray into taking out like multiple mortgages on his house so that they could afford to fund being Ghostbusters. It's almost like they're talking Will into this, which is a little like, come on, Will, like they're almost like using peer pressure against him. But I think it all works out. So now we see Will, Lucas, and Mike. Notice there's only 3 of them. Walking through a path in the woods, and they have a red wagon filled with all these books. They're just thinking, like, how much credit do you think we're going to get? And Will's like, it's going to be a lot. And Mike's like, this is great. We're going to be able to buy anything we want in that store. And then they start talking about the movie Alien and how scary it is. It's kind of cool. Just seeing how, the time and what the movie is the kids are talking about in 1980. They're not talking about Empire Strikes Back. Was that 80? Was that 80? My goodness, I don't remember. But they're talking about, just talking about aliens. And they're like, hey, can aliens be in Dungeons and Dragons? They're like, I don't think so. That's not fantasy. And Will says, okay, but what if the monsters are all aliens from another dimension? And Lucas says, that sounds cool. And Mike's like, I don't know, guys. But that little thing was like, monsters from another dimension. Hoo. Uh-oh. The bullies are back. You see, they go, hey, you dweebs. And now we see they're like, so where do you think you're going? You little dorks ain't going anywhere this time. And now we see Lucas, Mike, and Will all at the same time say, oh shit. It's at this point they all make a run for it, except Lucas. He actually grabs some of the books, starts hucking it at the bullies. And Will's like, you're throwing away Mike says, you're throwing away money. And Lucas says, they're romance novels. They're not worth shit. 2 shits on the same page. And they just start running. And as they're getting away, actually Lucas takes a little bit of a beating. He's like, save yourself. He's throwing books at him. He gets hit a couple times. Then he makes a run for it. They steal his jacket, but he's like, I don't even care about this jacket. But they're running up a hill, and Mike ends up losing control of the wagon. And it goes down the hill, crashes into all this mud, and we get another shit. That's 3 in 2 pages. I mean, look, these kids are potty mouths. Even in 1980, even 3 years before we met them, they still had potty mouths. So they go. They still go to the bookstore, and they're like, listen, these are some real gems hidden here. You wouldn't believe it. They're real rare, worth a lot of money. Definitely enough to get that game. And the guy offers them $1. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. $1 each. He's like, no, $1 for all of them. And they're like, you talked about the battle changing the future. The world we live in. That's the battle we're fighting right now. You have no idea how hard it is to be a kid these days. This is Mike, like, pleading. It really is just a war. We just want to fight on our own terms, like all the cool fantasy books in your store. We want to be heroes for once. I think Mike's just putting it on. And the guy's just like, listen, if I give you the basic set, will you take this mess out of my store before it ruins the floor? He doesn't even want the books. He's like, just take the Dungeons and Dragons and go away. They're like, yes, done, boom. And they start their first game together. This is their first attempt, and it's just 3 of them, just Mike, Lucas, and Will. And it says at first the game is a bit intimidating, but soon enough their imagination takes over and magical adventures begin to take shape. It shows them kind of figuring out, what the book is all about. Gives probably some text actually right out of the book, explaining Dungeons and Dragons and how, they're rolling die. And what we get is these cool little interludes of like what they're envisioning in their head as far as the story going on as they're playing the game itself. And Dungeons and Dragons is something that I know a little bit about, only because I read books that are in that sort of Dungeons and Dragons world. I read books from a specific author. I've mentioned this before. Their author's name is R.A. Salvatore. I met him at a talk at my college that my girlfriend, now wife, she had to go through for her English class. I tagged along. Next thing you know, I didn't know who this guy was at all. Next thing you know, I bought a book that night, met him, and since then I've read like 50 plus of his books. I'm reading one of his books right now. I've said it before. He's in one of his books. He has a character that they had to fight Demogorgon. It's not the Demogorgon. That was his name. It was like Demogorgon. That was really cool to see these things. And Mind Flayers have been referenced in his books. So I've read the stories, but I have never ever played the game Dungeons and Dragons. I don't have any friends that showed any interest, and I never really thought about it. Never even with these books, I didn't even realize they were in the world until like a while later. So I love these stories. I love these characters. Love these worlds. I just never played this before. So I wonder if any of you guys have ever played it, and if you have as much fun as the 3 guys are having here, just learning the game for the first time. And as I say, there's only 3 of them for now. Dungeons and Dragons becomes an explosion of excitement, an ever-changing puzzle for the boys to solve. Like they're talking about it all day. Like one girl's like, "What are you talking about? You guys sound really dumb." And they're like, "Oh, she's a Medusa." They start pointing out people in the school that remind them of characters in the story. Like a teacher, the bullies, a gym teacher, a janitor. They're all kind of they're giving them different characters. And then they're playing a little bit at lunch. The 3 of them are playing at lunch table, and off in the distance, you see a young lad in a very familiar baseball hat. He's about to eat a sandwich, and he's looking over like, what are you guys doing? And they're talking about the game, and they're like, you need to roll 10 damage or higher, and Lucas says 10 or higher with 2d6. Like I don't know what that means. I know it's something to do with the die. He goes, "Come on, Mike, that's impossible." And then off in the distance, this young fella says, "It's really not." And they're like, "What? What? Really not what?" He's like, "It's really not impossible." And Lucas is like, "Dude, we're doing a thing here. You don't even know what you're talking about." And this kid says, I get it just fine. You're using dice to generate random numbers, and high roll is optimal. Each 6-sided die has a 33% chance of rolling 5 or more, and you need to get 10 or higher in total. Calculating the odds, that's 16.67 chance. I mean, technically, the 0.6 repeats endlessly, but we usually just round it up to 7. And Lucas says, right, so 16.6 chance, that's not very good. This kid says, true, but it's not impossible. And Mike's like, wow, my name is Mike, and this is Will and Lucas. And this kid says, I'm Dustin. Boom. He says, you want to join our game? Is there more math? Absolutely. Then Dustin says, sweet. I'm in. It shows the 4 of them. sitting at the table. It almost looks like Will and Lucas are like, huh? What just happened? But Mike's really happy. Dustin's really happy. And now we have our fearsome foursome. And we get a little origin story of how they finally all met Dustin, which I thought was really cool. The next page, it's like a 2-pager. It's actually really cool. It shows the them kind of playing the game and becoming really good friends, the 4 of them. It says, and thus a friendship forms and adventures unfold. The saga of Will the Wise, Lucas the Lion, and Dustin of Dwarfholm. Because it's the 3 of them, remember, Mike's the one telling the story. A trio of heroes on an epic quest to keep the forest known as Elder Tree safe from deadly spirits and ferocious monsters. With each roll of the dice, the story gets a bit weirder and a bit wilder. Some of their fearsome foes are strange and unpredictable, while others take on familiar appearances of foes they face every day. And, it continues on the next page. It's actually another full pager, which is, again, really cool because we start to see things that we start to recognize. It says, but even as the adventurers forge their path through Elder Tree, another more subtle story is being woven. One of 4 kids becoming a true party. It shows the 4 of them, along with Joyce, building Castle Byers, which is really cool. It shows Will doing his drawings, kind of showing what they'd all look like in character. It says, even when the paper and pencils and dice have been set aside, and much like when they adventure through the imaginary woods, the monsters are a bit less scary when they face them together. It shows the 4 of them, now they have their walkie-talkies. I think they're in Castle Byers hanging out. It shows them talking in the library. And it shows Nancy. Looks like she's working on a costume, sewing something. I don't know how Lucas has a needle in his finger. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe he was trying to sew himself. Probably trying to impress Nancy, because remember that first episode, how he had that crush on Nancy, and they used to talk about how Nancy used to play with him. Now it shows Nancy dressed as an elf and an arrow striking into her bow. She has a big smile on her face. And I think that's just a really cool thing because we are seeing their friendship forge. We're seeing them all become friends. And you realize, because by the time we meet them, the 4 of them are thick as thieves. Thick as thieves. Now we see happy birthday, dear Mike. Happy birthday to you. April 7th, 1981. Wow, this has been, many months since we first met them, right? Because it was September of 1980. So it's been, you do the math. But it shows the entire Wheeler family sitting around the table, along with Will, Lucas, and Dustin singing happy birthday to Mike. And then the kids are just shoving food into their faces so quickly because they're like, boom, we got to go. Sorry, we got to do. Bye. And the dad's like, he's 10, dear. Let him, you have to let go sometime. It's like, remember the dad's just always just kind of like, hey, I'm the dad. He's kind of just a schlub. He's like, you got to let him go. So they run downstairs. They said, are you guys ready to finally fight Cinderstone, the fire giant? And the 3 of them say, yes. The battle is a vicious one. It takes all their strength that they have learned until the day is finally won. It shows them win. And with that, the game is over. So the 3 of them are really celebrating. Lucas, Will, and Dustin. And Mike's just kind of sitting there. And they're like, okay, so what's left? He's like, well, we finished level 3, so I guess that's it. I guess we're done. You can see Mike's not happy because Mike loves being the Dungeons Master and loves this continual story going on because it gives them excuse to hang out. And I guess we're done. And Will says, really? Lucas says, oh no. And Dustin's like, what a shame. But they all have smiles on their face. And they have a package in their hand. And they hand it to Mike and they say, we've been secretly saving up for this. So you better like it. And it shows him open up the expert set, number 2, Dungeons and Dragons. The battle has been won, but there will be more monsters to slay. Treasures to save, treasures to find, innocence to save. He's like, guys, this is the best. And Will's like, it's really kind of for all of us. And Lucas says, open it up. Mike says, not when you guys are around to see, because he doesn't want them to see anything before they start playing the game. And it says, after all, the adventure has only just begun. And that's the end of issue 1 of Dungeons and Dragons. Stranger Things and Dungeons and Dragons. And now we see another cover art of the 4 of them as in their characters battling what looks like a giant monster of some kind, multi-headed monster. But in the corner, we still see the Mind Flayer in the background, and we see a Demodog, like with his head all opened. So they're kind of mixing things together here, which is really cool. I love that first issue, because it's like a prequel to Stranger Things. It's like, hey, you know these 4 kids who love Stranger Things or love Dungeons and Dragons? Because we're the kids who love Stranger Things. These kids who love Dungeons and Dragons, well, here's how they got there. And I love that these 4 issues revolve around Dungeons and Dragons, but they're like, it's also showing these kids like little pieces of things we haven't seen in the world we already know. Because the next issue opens up, we actually see a little page with the drawing, with the Demogorgon, with his head all open like a giant flower. And it says November 27th, 1983, 2 weeks after Will Byers was rescued from the Upside Down. A true adventuring party isn't so easily divided. Whatever evil or supernatural forces work to separate them, they find their way back to each other. So this issue takes place after season 1. They actually show Dustin, Lucas, and Mike go to the hospital to visit Will. He's reading Creepy. They show them reading a couple times Creepy, which I guess is a comic book. And they're like, hey, we come bearing scrolls of homework, Will the Wise. He's like, oh, thought maybe you were attacked by trolls on the way because, they're so dumb they'd want to steal homework. And Mike's like, hey, I'm the dungeon master here, but you see a little glimpse of Will telling a good story, which we'll get that means something. They're like, hey, what issue is that? And they're just trying to talk to him normal about his comic book. Lucas is going on and on about how the hospital smells. He doesn't like the smell of it. And they're like, hey, how you doing? He's like, well, the doctor says I can probably go home tomorrow. They're like, yes, finally. Finally, things can get back to normal. Yeah, right. And they're like, we can pick the game up again, right? Right, Mike? And Mike's like, yeah, sure, if Will's up for it. He's like, yeah, whenever. Back to normal. Back to normal's good. Then we cut to Mike back at home, and he's looking through his Dungeons and Dragons stuff. And he's like, in Dungeons and Dragons, you head into the unknown and you fight the darkness, because that's what heroes do. It's just a game, a bunch of made-up stuff. It shouldn't even matter. Not after everything that happened. But I can't stop thinking about it. I used to be scared all the time. Scared of school, scared at home, scared of what people thought of me. But in the game, I was always brave. And that changed everything. It showed me how to fight monsters at school. And now the monsters are real. And he's just, the guy who used to be so scared of the Demogorgon showing up, and then we met something way worse. Not our characters with their magic and their weapons. Us. How are we supposed to go back to playing a fantasy game when we've already fought real monsters? And we're getting clips, little drawings of little scenes, with the bullies, and we're getting like real, I think, scenes from the TV show. We show them in the school. We see 11. We see the Demogorgon. And Mike is just like, he can't even focus on this. After everything that happened, after losing 11, he is just like, this is stupid. And he smashes the game, throws it across the room. He's like almost going to start crying. He's upset. He's just really upset. And he storms upstairs. And he's just not really into it. Next morning, we see the three of them at lunch. Will's not back at school. And Dustin mentions how the arcade's opening in a few months. And remember the beginning of season 2, we got Mad Max. And Luke says, oh man, that's going to be so cool. They're like, yeah, great. Mike's just not into it. It's like, I mean, not like video games are great. Like Dungeons Lair, Dungeons and Dragons is way better. I think they're thinking Mike's afraid that they're going to think video games are more fun than Dungeons and Dragons. And he's like, yeah, especially when you're the dungeon master, Mike. You're like, seriously, you're the best. He's like, thanks, guys. He smiles. He says, they can say stuff like that, but how do I know they mean it? That they just think this is all just a stupid waste of time now. And now we cut over to Will and Mike. We're at the buyer's house, and we see Will talking about like how, I still have dreams about it. It's like being in this weird place that looks like home, but everything is wrong. Mike says, I think my sister does too, and she was only there for like 5 seconds. It's like, what you need is something way more fun to think about. I'm going to write a new adventure for you guys. And Will says, yeah, there's kind of a problem with that. And Mike's like, oh, I knew it. He doesn't want to play anymore. So he looks at Will and he says, what's the problem? He's like, well, Will the Wise has failed his fireball. You remember, I rolled a 7. He died. And he's like, you can't cheat the game. Will's like, no. You had this gemstone and you were using it as a protection. He kind of, Mike basically bends the story in such a way that, Will can survive and come back as his character. And Will's like, yeah, okay, if you say so. And it shows them kind of just sitting there in silence in Will's room. I wonder if it's almost like a thing where Will's like, look, I'm not the same. I can't just come back into this game and be the same. Mike's like, no, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And that's Will's way of saying, yeah, I guess. Which, I don't know. I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but I think that's pretty cool. Now it shows Mike working on a new story. So he's like, I gotta think of something. I want somebody to be special, a big monster that we can slay. And he starts drawing this multi-headed looking dragon thing with in the middle of all the heads is this giant mouth. And then he pictures the Demogorgon again with the face all open like that. And he freaks out. He's like, ah! Slams his book down. Nancy comes and checks on him. She's like, are you okay? I thought I heard. He's like, go away, Nancy. This is my domain. She's like, domain is a really dorky word, Mike. Shut up, he says. And then he kind of explains, look, I'm just having trouble designing new adventures. It's a dungeon master thing. You wouldn't understand. So he tries to explain to her all this stuff about Dungeons and Dragons, and she's trying to listen. But really, he's just really, really frustrated. Because they're like, it's like, he needs to make a story where Will kills this monster. And she's like, well, why can't Lucas just kill the thing? And Mike says, it's got to be Will. He needs to kill the thing. And then he's like, he needs to be the hero, not the victim. And he starts crying again. And Nancy gives him a big hug. And he's like, Nancy, I'm so scared. It's like, Will vanished. 11 showed up, and then just everything just went crazy. And we see this like recap all on one page. We see the 3 kids in the rain is finding 11. We see the fight between Lucas and, was it Lucas and Mike, I think, with 11 with the blonde hair off in the distance. We see the van being flipped over. We see 11 fighting the Demogorgon in school. It's a friggin' great page. And, you know, Mike's like, everything went crazy, and we can't come back from that. Nothing's ever going to be the same. And she says, you're right. Nothing. It can't be the same anymore. But that doesn't mean it has to be bad. Will made it back safe. And even after all that you went through, you guys are still best friends. It's like no monster, real or make-believe, could take that away from you. I have to be honest. I wish I had friends like that. Dungeons and Dragons kept you guys together, Mike. Isn't that worth celebrating? And Mike's like, yeah, he just puts pen to paper and he does it. He says, I hate thinking about it, but maybe Nancy's right. Maybe I've been looking at this whole game the wrong way. I can't make everyone play it the way I want. I mean, I could try, but it really wouldn't be that fun. And that's not what the game has ever been about anyway. It's about all of us telling the story together. And if Will is going to be the one who saves the day here, that's something we'll all make happen. And it shows Will show up at the house. This is his first time hanging out. His mother dropped him off. Like all the other kids showed up on bikes. Will gets dropped off. Mrs. Wheeler sees him. He's like, oh, how are you? She has no idea what actually happened. And Mike's like, come on, Mom, we got to play a game. She's like, all right, you boys have fun with your witches. It's like, Mom. So they all run down, and Mike's like, snacks are on the way. And he's like, nice. Dustin says, oh, the Dungeon Master is bribing us. I like it. Will says, I'm glad we're here playing again. I'm glad that we can still do this. And Lucas says, no stinking monster is going to keep us away from this game. Or government suits, is what Dustin says. Mike says, he thinks I was stupid to worry. They all still want to play the game just as much as I do. He says, okay, let's get this started. And he says, last session ended with the Demogorgon foolishly attacking Will the Wise, not realizing he was guarded by a mystic scarab of protection. And Dustin's like, wait, where did he? The proud princess. But isn't that for curses? Cursed claws. Ooh, they love it. They love that Mike figured out how to get Will in the story. But what's scary is that while this is going on, they all seem to be having fun. Behind Will is the shadow of the Mind Flayer. Because they think they're done. But we know the story is not over yet. And that's the end of issue 2. Look at that. We're halfway through, my friends. Hope you have another 3 hours in you. This next page, it's a cover, and it shows our 4 heroes battling. It looks like a panther with two giant tentacles with spikes on the end. I'm going to guess these are Dungeons & Dragons creatures. But in the background, we see our Demogorgons with the big giant mouth open. Scary, scary stuff. So now this page shows, the next page, it's like a little interlude, shows our 4 characters. I'm sorry, our 3 main characters. Actually, I don't see Will the Wise there. We see Lucas, he's like some kind of cool ranger. We see Dustin as a dwarf. Mike as a wizard. But then we see 2 female characters. I wonder what's going to be happening in issue 3. May 18th, 1985. I was 9 years old. 7 months after 11 closed the gate at Hawkins National Lab. Yes, Season 2 has now passed in Stranger Things, and we are now onto Stranger Things 3. We see them all show up at... Is this Mike's house? This is Mike's house, but Will answers the door. He says, welcome, heroes, your grand adventure awaits. And Will is dressed in his full wizard costume, the Will the Wise. And outside we see Dustin, Lucas, Max, and 11. And 11 now looks like she's already been shopping at the mall. She's got a scrunchie in her hair. I love that they've aged these kids. Like every issue, they're a little older, a little more like they are during the season. And Lucas is like, oh boy, here we go. Max is like, is it Halloween already? And 11's like, what are you wearing? And Mike's there all of a sudden at the door. He's like, I told him it was probably too much, but he insisted. And Max says, I think it's awesome. Will says, you must all address me by my full name, Will the Wise. Remember in season 3, like they didn't care that much. It seems like they didn't care as much about Dungeons & Dragons when we saw them, because Lucas and Mike were focused on girls. Dustin wasn't even there. He was just getting back from camp. So this is before all that took place. They're trying to introduce Max and 11 into the world of Dungeons & Dragons. So they all head downstairs and they try to teach the girls all about it. And, you know, they're receptive but hesitant a bit. And they're like, you can be any character you want out of all these characters. And 11 chooses to be an elf because she's a magic user. And she's like, are you a knight? And Mike says, sure. And Will says, dude, I'm the wizard. We don't need 2 magic users in the party. It's like, I thought you changed Will to a cleric. Does this look like something a cleric would wear? And then Mike gets up to Will. He's like, look, this is the perfect opportunity for me to play a cool hero and impress Elle. Can you run this adventure? He's like, I've never been a dungeon master before. I don't know how to. It's like, it's easy. Just come up with a scenario, throw in some monsters, and make it exciting. He's like, I don't know, Mike. Mike's like, and Mike says, you've got tons of imagination. You can do this. See, you can kind of see, you know, Mike wants to play, but he wants to play with 11. He wants to change things up. All of a sudden, there's girls there, and I get that. I've seen that. I've done that. Where all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I got to do something with my girlfriend instead of my friends. It happens. So Mike speaks up and says that Will is going to be the dungeon master. So while we get the characters ready, he'll make the next adventure. And you can see Dustin and Lucas were not really like, they're like, huh? What? So Mike starts talking about Mike the Mighty, who's going to be a paladin who is there to fight against the evil monsters. And 11's like, is he strong? He's like, oh yeah, he's strong, all right. And they're like, oh, a paladin, huh? Yeah, we'll have to see if he survives to earn his place in the circle of heroes. And because you're on the dangerous side of the DM screen now, Mike. Lucas is saying, look, man, you could be a knight all you want, but the dungeon master decides how the story goes, so good luck with it. Max says, I want to play a zoomer. And Dustin's like, a zoomer's not a character. She's like, so can I just make something up? He's like, no, those are the rules. So they end up finding a character for her that's, you know, it's called a quickling. They're small and they're really fast. She's like, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. He's like, they're usually evil, but you could be a good one. She's like, yeah. And I'm going to call my quicklings Max the Zoomer Doomer. So no matter what, she wants to be a zoomer. And Lucas is like, she's a quickling. So maybe Zoomer could be her clan's name. Whatever, let's just get started. And they start explaining the numbers to things. And Mike's trying to explain it to the girls. You could see like Will's like, what is going on? His girlfriend's not there. But Lucas obviously wants to be open to this because it's his girlfriend too. So it shows kind of all of them on their adventure. It shows Will telling the story of 100 years ago, the group of heroes saved the Elder Tree. But now the great cycle begins again, and new legends will be forged from the ashes of the past. Because remember, Will's very creative. He has great drawings. He tells these stories. He's really good at it. And so we kind of get the story now of Lucas the Lion, Max the Zoomer Doomer, Dustin of Dwarfholm, Mike the Mighty, and 11 of the Eldritch Elves. 5 heroes brought together by fate. Our adventure begins in the twisting canyon known as Broken Rock. The sun is high above, but obscured by thick clouds that shut out the light, making everything dim and creepy. And it kind of goes on for them explaining the adventure of this giant crab-looking scorpion thing that is fighting them. It's actually really kind of cool. It's got this giant claws, and it shoots webs, and it shoots one at Lucas, and then it shows them kind of going through the fight of how to get through this thing. And they're getting along. They're figuring out how to roll. Eleven's casting these spells. Max is running up a wall and cutting the web with her knife. Lucas is almost about to... it looks like he's holding onto Cliff with one hand, and now he can't get away from something. But now Mike is about to jump in front of Elle to protect her, and then 11, or Elle the elf, cast a magic spell. And while she's really thinking about this in her mind, I guess her focus got too focused, because on the game board, the little characters, the figures, start to rise a little. And they're like, Elle? She says, oh, crack. Right behind them. A giant crack in the wall of their house. And they're like, oh, shit. Oh, man, my mom and dad's going to kill me. And Lucas is like, you weren't supposed to cast a shatter spell for real. And then they're like, maybe we should just put something in front of it. But in that crack, they see these 2 eyes staring out at them, and they freak out. They show Lucas scream. They show Dustin scream. I feel like I can hear Dustin's scream, like the same scream that we've heard him do 1,000 times. They're like, what the hell? Something leaps out of this crack. It's just a shadow, but they're freaking out. They're like, grab a book. And it looks like Dustin wants to smash them with a book, and Will's like, that's not a weapon. And Dustin says, knowledge is the best weapon. They like grab a flashlight. They run out of the house, because whatever it is just ran upstairs. So they're like, oh, just part of the game, Mom, running away because they're making all this noise. They go into what looks like the garage, or a closet. I'm sorry. They click on a light. Oh, the light must have burned out, so that didn't work. They hear all this noise. It's like very scared. But what I love is 11 puts her arms up, and she's in front of all of them, like protecting them. And they're like, what is that? Max has said, I thought the monster hunt was just supposed to be pretend today. They see the shape run right by them and run. Now it runs up the stairs. They run right by Nancy, bump into her. Like, oh, sorry, the game's getting really intense. They run outside. They trap whatever this thing is, in the bushes. And Dustin's like, oh man, remember, these things are only cute when they're little. Because don't you remember, he had that little baby demodog that he was his little friend. They're like, well, we've got it outnumbered. Okay, I'm ready to do this. And he's like, we got to stay strong. And 11 looks at him and goes, Mike, I'm always strong. She's like, yeah, I know. I just thought we could do this together. And Will looks at him. He's like, we each have our different strengths. That's what makes us such a good party. And 11 says, this is mine. And she uses her powers to move the bushes apart. And we see that it's just a rat. A rat with a baby rat. And they're like, oh, Max says, it's just a rat. And Lucas is like, did you want something worse? And they realized there were baby rats in the walls. They went in and got them all out and freed them all. And 11's like, they're like me before all of this. Mike's like, well, what do you mean? Separated from their mama, trapped. He goes, but we're setting them free, and they'll be right where they belong. Just like you. Thanks, Mike. And they hold hands and go in the house. And who's in the house? But Hopper. He's there to pick 11 up. And it's funny, whenever I read Hopper, I can just hear his voice saying these things. He's like, will you two knock off all the touchy-touchy already? Time to go home for dinner. Oh, yeah, I mean, that was fun. The game, was fun. I'll see you tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. Bye, Mike. And so they all head out. Will's like, we didn't finish the game. He's like, oh, that's okay. It's a cliffhanger ending. We'll have 11 roll for the shatter the next time and pick up from there. And Dustin says, you guys better not finish the adventure while I'm at camp. He's like, we won't. We'll wait for you. We've got the whole summer, right? And that's the end of issue 3. Not a lot happened in that issue. What we got was kind of the precursor of season 3. Dustin's about to leave for camp. They don't play Dungeons and Dragons without him. All of a sudden, Mike and 11 get a little closer. Lucas and Max get a little closer. And Will's kind of on the outside. Come on, let's play. Come on, let's play. They don't really play. Even when Dustin comes back, they don't really get back into it. And we see 11 and Mike growing a little closer. But it was also kind of cool just to see 11 use her powers. But again, not much happening there. And now we're on the final cover page of this is Dungeons and Dragons issue 4. We see now I don't see any creatures from the Upside Down except maybe all the weird blue tendrils that might be no, I can't picture anything. But we see our 4 knights, our 4 heroes. Will the Wise, Dustin, he's in chains, and Lucas is trying to free him. And Mike has this giant, bat or something with spikes on it. And they're fighting this really wild monster with all kinds of teeth and eyes. Pretty great art. And then we get the little screen. It shows an older wizard pointing at us, kind of Gandalf-y looking dude. And now, my friends, we are almost completely caught up in the world of Stranger Things. Because it shows the 4 kids, the 4 boys, all on their bikes. Now they're even older. And they're like, oh man, this blows. Like, when did this even happen? And it shows the Hawkins bookstore. The same bookstore that they got Dungeons and Dragons the first time with a big sign on it that says closing. And Will's like, it's probably because of that stupid mall. And Mike says, Mom said a lot of stores were having trouble around here. Sorry, I just thought they could go one more time. Maybe find some really cool books for the car ride for Will. The car ride. You know why, right? Will's leaving. This takes place right at the end of season 3. And Will's like, hey, it's fine. Don't worry. You didn't even know. It was a good idea. Where do you want to go, Will? He's like, well, I guess we could swing by the library one more time. And they're like, you better not steal any books out of there. He's like, I'm not a monster. But what I love about this art, very subtle. It shows the 4 boys riding away on their bikes on the right. But on the left side, it shows 3 kids going in to the bookstore with a wagon filled with books. And it's our boys from the first issue. It's kind of like showing the passage of time, because they're a little lighter. There's like light shining on one side, and then on the other side there's no light. Where they're going, it's just shadow, and they're kind of heading off. I really love that panel. It tells a little story without even telling you that it's telling a story. It's just, you might not even notice it. It's really well done. So as they're riding along, Will says, hey, I know I'm supposed to be the dungeon master tomorrow, but if you guys would rather have Mike run the game, or, if you want to do something else, we don't have to play. And before there is even an answer, we say, oh, look at those dipshits. Hey, so long, zombie boy. See you never. It's those bullies. One more time. And Lucas gives them a nice middle finger. Mike says, once a troll, always a troll. But then he looks at Will and says, of course we have to play one more game while we're still all together. It would just be wrong if we didn't. Come on, Will. You've been trying to get us to sit down and play all summer, Lucas said. You really going to give up on us now? And then Dustin adds, it's the perfect way to spend your last day here, right? He's like, thanks, guys. Yeah, right. Thank you. And don't worry. It's going to be an epic game. And he says, it better be. So now they're all sitting around in the buyer's house with all these moving boxes. The 4 boys, the 2 girls, and Dustin's like, this is it, huh? This is really our last adventure. You guys, you sure we have time for this game and the rest of packing? And Mike's like, with all of us helping? Come on, totally, come on. So Will takes over and says, what's going on in this world doesn't matter right now. What matters is the adventure to come. Lucas says, this would sound better if you had your wizard robes on. Don't be a dick, Lucas. Just let him start the game. Oh, that's from Max, by the way, nudging him. Will says, you are the heroes of the Elder Tree, the bastions of broken rock, slayers of evil and treasure seekers most bold. Our tale began with 3 mighty warriors, now 5 quest together. The astral form of Will the Wise appears before you, ghostly winds blowing all around him. And they're showing all these epic drawings, these heroic fantasy drawings of our favorite characters in character of Dungeons and Dragons. Will goes on, and now we see him as the wizard, an old wizard with long gray hair. My old friends, the time has come to confront the source of these dark forces that have laid claim to the land and its people. If you be the heroes I remember, step forth unto the portal, and we 6 shall purge the darkness together. Like, wait, what? Like, the kids are interjecting, like, onto the portal or into the portal. Like, shut up. Just let them go. We go through the portal, weapons ready. They're like, hell yeah, we do. On the other side, you see the man you once knew as Will the Wise. Only now he's Will the Grand Wizard. And there, on the blasted lands in front of you, is a swarming army of demons. And it shows an epic, like, army of evil waiting for them on the other side. And now we just see them kind of going crazy with their attack. Like, Mike's like, everyone stay close. With light on our side, we shall not fail. Lucas has these lion figurines that he throws down, and they turn into magic lions who fight things. Lucas, that was Lucas. Yeah, Dustin actually gets hit by an arrow. It's a -2. Oh my goodness gracious. And he's like, I'm going to use my axe enchantment to cast Ice Storm. But he is, looks like he's getting completely destroyed. And Lucas is like, Dustin's like, dude, what are you doing? There's no way we're going to survive. And he says, is Dustin giving up? No, and they're just yelling, keep fighting. Now Max takes on this leader, one of the leaders, and just starts beating the poop out of it. It crashes the helmet and like knocks his head a mile. His head's still there, knocks the helmet a mile, I say, off the head. And he's like, nice. What does he look like underneath? And Will says, his features are sharp and his eyes burn with anger. And she says, I'm going to go high speed and hit him with everything. And we see Billy. So she sees Billy. When she thinks evil, when she thinks anger, not evil, but anger, it's Billy. And he's yelling, well, how dare you strike me? And she's like, Will says, give me 3 rolls. So she rolls 3 things. And then she's like, I hit him in the chest, on the shoulder, and the face. Is he dead? And Will's like, oh yeah, he's dead. He's toast. Good. Screw that guy. And Dustin's like, oh my God, that's pretty intense. Lucas is like, listen, yeah, she's dealing with a lot. So just give her a bit of space, Because remember what's going on. And Max, like, her stepbrother just died. It's crazy. So now we get 11. And we show her, it's your turn to do what you do. And she's hesitant. He's like, there are demons everywhere. And the whole group is in danger. And she's like, I know. 11. And Mike says, do you know what you want to do? Will says, you probably want to go with a really powerful spell. Something that can take out the whole bunch at once. Because we're really outnumbered here. mean, think about it. That's pretty much what they relied on 11 to do in real life. So while Will is saying this, we see a shot of her trying to make the cocaine crunch in the mall. We see the shot of Billy being destroyed by the mind flayer. And we see Hopper in the mall with her earlier, and he's like, right now I just need you to be safe. Oh, that's a heartbreaking thing about that. And all this stuff is going through her head, and she's like, I can't do this. Mike's like, hey, it's okay. And she says, I don't want anyone else to die, Mike. In the game. Mike's like, listen, do you know how many times characters almost die in this game? It's a lot. It's seriously almost every session. And she says, but why is this fun? He goes, because this is ours. It's our world. It's our story. And no matter how shitty everything else is, we still have this. And Dustin says, D&D is the whole reason we even met these nerds. I even met these nerds. Hey, who are you calling a nerd? That's what Lucas says. And Max says, you, nerd. Will says, it's not about winning or losing. Even though I'm playing the monsters, we're all making the story. That's the important part. That's why we play. And then 11 looks at them and says, then we do this together. Okay, Elle, you can do this. What's your action? She says, I'm casting a spell. And you said we were surrounded, so we can't win. Not like this. So I cast a true sight and look for a weak point. But all of a sudden, when she does that, nothing's there. The whole army was just an illusion. And they're like, no way. And all of a sudden, you see it written black bubbles. Like when you see a black text bubble on a screen, on a comic book, you know, like pretty much it's evil. And you see, you don't see who's saying it, but it says, well done, elf girl. You've dispelled my illusionary armor, but now you must face the true enemy. One of your own. Oh my goodness gracious. It's Will. Will's the wizard's body. Will the wizard's body crackles with dark magic. His piercing red eyes make it clear he's possessed by some sort of terrible evil. Uh-oh, Will's possessed. They're like, oh my God. No, Will. 11 goes, of course. It's always been about saving Will. Oh, baby, that line right there. And it shows all the characters in the story, all the running full speed at Will. Not to kill him, but to free him from being possessed. And that line that says it's always been about saving Will. Whew, that got me. He says, you're righteous. Your attack is righteous and true. A thunderclap of destiny echoes across the land, and great evil you fought was vanquished once and for all. But Will's not looking so good. Remember, this is in Dungeons and Dragons. Mike says, how long were you possessed by the darkness? He said, when we banished evil from the elder tree, oh, so long ago, it took root inside me. But now it's truly gone. Remember in season 2, how it was kind of inside Will? Ugh. This is just like too much. Too much. He says, we'll take you to the healers. He's like, there's no time for that, you silly dwarf. Take comfort in the fact that you have done well, and goodness prevails once more. The covenant is broken. Yes, Will says, the covenant is broken. Remember, because they're kind of breaking up. Will's moving. 11's going with her. Things change, and you must accept this if you are to carry on with your heads held high. And Mike, the knight, says, we can't do this without you. He says, you already have. And then it shows real life Will saying it to the 5 of them. You already have. And they're all looking at him like, whoo. They're all looking sad. And I'm getting teared up the second time reading it. Oh, baby. I'm sorry. I'm getting emotional. And it shows Dustin like cry, like tears in his eyes. He's like, dude, that was freaking perfect. And Will says, yeah, that was so crazy. Even the girls love it. Levin's like, did I do good? He's like, Max says, yeah, girl, you were a legend. And Will's wiping tears away. He's like, yeah, that was really cool. Thanks for playing. And then it shows the 5 of them in just one tight group hug. Okay, yep. I'm chopping onions. Oh boy. Now we get kind of a familiar scene towards the end of the last season of Stranger Things. We show Will looking at some books, looking at some drawings, and he puts all the Dungeons and Dragons books he has into the donation box. And that's when Mike's like, whoa, that's the donation box. He's like, yeah, I'll just use yours when I get back. He's like, but what if you want to join another party? Not possible. And then Mike says, it was a really good game, you know. It's like, of course it was. I learned how to be a dungeon master from the best. The not possible is from the show. This part I think was added, right, for the comic. Mike says, hey, it took me a long time to get there, but totally worth it. And Will says, that's why I feel it's okay to give away the books, you know. Maybe someone else needs them as much as we do. And then we get the final page. Maybe someone else needs to learn that they can be a hero too. And it shows all our characters in their Dungeons and Dragons version with the donation box of books near them, almost like the books got to them, and that's how they became heroes. And they're all sharing a glass of mead or ale, but they're underage, so it must be root beer. And it says the end. And that was the end of Dungeons and Dragons, Stranger Things and Dungeons and Dragons. And my friends, that was pretty spectacular. I have to admit, even the second time around. I read it. This is the second time today I've read it. Love it. So while the story is over, there are a couple pages. There's some line drawings that are in the book. I don't know if they're outtakes. And then there's a really cool thing where the last 2 pages has each boy character with their, like, it's almost like a card with their Dungeons and Dragons character on them, like their own poster, their own. These would be really cool posters, and it also shows their Dungeons and Dragon character record sheet. So each of them has, I guess, how they create their characters, how they have their points, all these things. I'm assuming these are real things out of the Dungeons and Dragons book. Again, I don't know anything about that part. But I love the story and I love the characters. And so there's one for Will the Wise, Lucas the Lion, Dustin of Dwarfholm, and Mike the Mighty. But it's weird. Some of them, they look more current. Mike's drawing, he looks a little younger there. But this art is just spectacular. Spectacular. And that's the end. The end of the comic. So what did we learn? You know, again, not a great deal, but not a great deal as far as like Stranger Things mythology or something that is going to fulfill anything in future stories. But really what it is it's just a way to really flesh out these characters and show them doing other things, which kind of just makes you love them more because you already fall in love with them for the adventures you see on TV. But now you get to kind of see them have further fun. Maybe not even crazy adventures, just further fun. And that's why I love reading these books and these comics. And really, I love that it just shows how something so simple as a game could mean so much, not because of the game, but because of the people you play the game with. And I think that's kind of the moral of this whole thing. It's like the game's fun, but it's fun because I'm playing it with you guys. Podcasting is fun, but it's fun because I get to talk about Stranger Things. And it's fun because you guys listen. That's what I love the most. You guys, the listeners. I'm sorry. I'm crying again. Look, this was a pretty long one, huh? Pretty long one. But, you know, these comic books, they deserve to be kind of really talked about. And I love going through them all. And I hope you enjoyed it too. I think we're done here. Plus, I wanted to talk about some people reaching out. Thank you for the voicemail, for the Facebook message, for the iTunes review. And I wanted to talk about the thing I missed with the Creel House. I want to talk about Stranger Things Day, which is going to be a couple days from now. Pretty excited. So hopefully something cool happens, and I'll be back here to talk about it. Whatever happens, big or small, I'll be here to talk about it over the weekend. But until then, thank you guys so much for listening and subscribing. Thank you guys for sticking with me. I can't wait for Stranger Things 4 to come out. You can find me, in the meantime, on Twitter at Geek Mentality. I also have an Instagram at Geek Mentality. And also, the show has a Twitter at StrangerDPod. So, yeah, you can find me there. Oh, my dog just woke up. Perfect timing. She wants to go out. And I think that's the signal. That's the signal for me to say goodnight. So, until next time, remember, stay strange, my friends. And reading is fundamental. And you can't spell fundamental without F-U-N.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere, friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow. I can be anything. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. A reading rainbow.
Fans not experts.